did you become a face in the world of boxing and MMA over the last 30 years?
Dillian Whyte.
Yeah.
I remember getting a text from him late at night saying, "Who the f*** are you to call me a drugs cheat?" I've had Deontay Wilder right in my face, look at the clip, giving it to me in my face like that. Barry and Frank will never get on. They are titans.
Yes.
They are dynasties of
Absolutely.
promoting.
I wonder if we could make that happen one day.
Being in London, 2.2 million tickets being sold.
Tell me your honest opinion on boxing being in Saudi Arabia.
My honest opinion is I love it.
Yeah.
I like East and West coming together. The triumph of the human spirit.
Yeah.
And if you're not into that, you're not human. Just
Whoa,
follow it.
hold on a minute, you had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Who do you reckon would win in his heyday, Mike Tyson or Tyson Fury?
Such a difficult fight.
Who is the most exciting fighter in the UK at the moment in any division? Gareth, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you very much, Dodge.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this one. Let's roll all the way back. Where did you grow up and how did you become a face in the world of boxing and MMA over the last 30 years?
Well, I grew up in Berlin, Warsaw, Nicosia, Vienna, Moscow, Beijing, Lagos, with travelling parents, my dad in the military and then in the Foreign Office. So, but I went to school in Wales, in a private school in Wales, boarding school called Monmouth, which was a big sports school, and I loved and still obviously love and have always loved sport. So I grew up around the world, and I feel very fortunate as I get older that I did, because I think I was always around creed and colour and different cultures, and I think it forced on me a kind of a need almost to travel the world. And I've worked in 40 countries, over 100 cities, and to try and cut a very long story into a manageable length, I think I feel very fortunate. I mean, an Italian mum and a Welsh dad who are massive achievers in life, probably more than I'll ever achieve really in the things that they've done. I mean, they worked in 25 countries. My dad worked till he was 70 for the Foreign Office. My mum had numerous jobs. They worked incredibly hard to put me through private school. And I was always a rebel, unfortunately. Bit like you. But I think what I had was a lot of life force, a lot of drive. And I think driven by sport. I wanted to be a professional sportsman really when I was younger. I couldn't sit in the classroom and smell cut grass without thinking about wanting to run up and bowl fast and hit the ball everywhere, like Imran Khan and Ian Botham, my cricket heroes. Or loved the fact that when you were in the first 15 for rugby at school, and like you, I was a scrum half, one of the little guys on the rugby field, you had to be tough. And I loved playing rugby at school. I loved boarding at school. It was it's a tough existence. And I was always being gated or writing lines or the last to be caned in my school when I was 16 for telling a Latin master, stop picking his nose and flicking his bogies. But you get the,
yeah, I get
was
it.
very spirited.
You're disruptive.
I was very
in a nice way.
Yeah, probably they'd probably call it ADHD today.
Yeah.
But I've always had a lot of energy. So I grew up around the world, but went to school in England, Wales.
What were your movements after school? What did you say to yourself, right, I want to get into journalism, I want to get into sport? Were you always thinking, right, I have to be in the world of sport?
Well, I wanted to be. I probably wasn't quite good enough. Cricket was what I was best at. But, you discovered the wayward things, girls. I went to University. I know you went to Loughborough, didn't you? Very strong sporting universities and did that there. Did Spanish and Italian at university. Then I did a master's in linguistics and journalism in London. But between that, I went to China for a year and lived in Beijing, kind of had my year of living dangerously.
What rough age were you when you went to China?
22.
22?
Yeah.
What made you decide I want to go to China?
My mum and dad were there.
Okay.
So they were there. I went to see, I'd always wanted to go to China because I was interested in energy, qi.
Yeah.
Probably in a kind of universal way, first of all, in a kind of hippie-ish way from university. But then, you know, Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali were massive heroes for me as a teenager growing up. You know, Muhammad Ali because of his activism and his uniqueness and his fighting spirit and his beauty.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee because I just loved the little guy. He always had a rose in his mouth for the girl, but boy, he was just amazing, you know? And I love that. I just love the way he moved. Would love to have I met Muhammad Ali about 4 times before he passed away. But I'd love to have met Bruce Lee. I went to his grave in, I think Seattle it is, in Washington. I think it's in Seattle. But I have been to his grave and there were crows there on the day I went. Loads of crows, loads of ravens there. It was really extraordinary, very weird experience. I remember writing about it. But to go back to, I went to Beijing.
And what rough year are we talking? Late 80s here?
We're talking 1988.
88, okay.
And my dad was, you know, I used to dread my school reports coming.
Same.
Playing to the gallery, cavalier attitude, brilliant at sport, but he won't pass his A-levels or his O-levels as they were then. And it used to be, I used to dread my school report landing in the postbox. Yeah, honestly, my dad would go through it meticulously. And like, why do you like this? And I said, he's lying about me. He doesn't understand me. And they were really. But I was disruptive in class. But ultimately, I captained cricket at school. We were national champions at under 17. And when I you'll remember this, when you get in, if you are disruptive, once you get in the first 15 or the first 11, and I was in the first 11 for cricket for 3 years, you've got your place in school, you've got your blazer then.
That's right.
People don't punish you anymore. They let you walk on the grass. It doesn't matter if your top button's undone. And it's like you found your place in society. So Dad was trying to groom me to join the Foreign Office or go on a short service commission or join the Hong Kong police. But I'm more guerrilla army than regular army, if you know what I mean. So I think I went to Beijing. My mum and dad were there. I had an amazing time. Every day was like a week. I was learning wushu, qigong. I was teaching diplomats and their wives English at the time. I did a little TEFL course before I went there down in Bournemouth, and then went over. So I had something to do. Edited a business directory. Did a bit of commercial spying, but I'll leave that there. Got involved with a lot of people. My mum and dad left, and I stayed on in the People's Daily newspaper compound where I'd got a flat, the Zhemin Zhibao. I learnt Chinese 9 hours a week with a teacher as well.
You learnt Chinese?
I spoke very good Chinese by the end of the year. But my parents left I went there in the October. My parents left in the January. I'd moved into the Remen Rubao, the People's Daily newspaper compound, which was a government newspaper, but there was a China Daily in English where there were 6 journalists, and I was paying the guy that was running the flats American dollars to be in one of the flats with its own bathroom and its own toilet, which back in '88 when they had Danway's work units. That was a privilege. And everyone thought I was a student at the university and was working on the magazine. But I had video cameras and stuff. And then the students started to protest. And there was an uprising. And for about 5 or 6 weeks, and I got involved in working on it then. And that was my first journalism, if you like.
Did you know then that's what you want to do?
As soon as I was told at university I was very good at writing. I've always struggled to sit still and study.
Yeah.
It always amazes me that I've worked for the Telegraph for 30 years and I still do. But I write in very intense passages and then I have to move around again.
Yeah, okay.
Which is why I like the fight world, because it's organic, it's visceral, anything can happen, it's drama, and you're in the eye of the storm the whole time. That's why I think it suits me, and I feel the drama of it and I enjoy it. But as soon as I was told by my professor at university that I was very good at writing, even though of all the things that I do now, radio, television and writing, newspaper, magazine and whatever, that's the thing I find toughest, writing, because I don't rate myself. And that's probably a good thing. And I think other people say, oh, I love your writing.
Yeah.
But I'm highly critical of it, highly critical. And that's probably a good thing for me, because
keeps you on your toes, right?
Yeah, it does keep me on my toes. But Beijing was the opening of journalism for me. It was very thrilling, but ultimately tragic, because I was out on the streets every night with the students, living in the People's Daily compound, no pass, armed guards on the gates. I was getting in through the back door. It really was a year of living dangerously. And my father had said to me when he left, these are the people to speak to if you've got major problems. If you get involved in any drugs out here or anything that's wrong, they won't help you.
Was there a lot of drugs out in China at that time?
There were the Uyghurs, who are one of the nationality minorities, used to sell shish kebabs on the street corners, but they also sold weed.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And, you had a little bit of a smoke every now and again. And but that kind of thing was very much frowned upon there. Even though you could get an old opium pipe. I think I smoked opium there once. But you could get
get away with that. Yeah.
I can't remember when I smoked it now, but it was definitely... I think when I went to Beijing, there were still old folk who still had a license to smoke opium.
Yeah.
And, without going into history, the Opium Wars, and the British were dealers down the Chinese coast. You know about the Opium Wars, and that's why we had Hong Kong, because we wouldn't deal in opium anymore, and we'd leave them alone and not get them all stoned. But so I had an amazing year in China.
What were your movements after that from China? You said you mentioned you've been to 40 countries and worked. Give me an example of some of the countries you've worked in.
Well, the weird thing is, my girlfriend from university, who became my wife, came out to China, and we did that whole thing together. And obviously, we know the tragedy that happened. The tanks rolled in, the students were killed. It's glossed over now.
The students were killed?
Oh, yeah. There were students camped in that Tiananmen Square on June the 4th, 1989. When the tanks rolled in, there were thousands of students in that square.
Right?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a tragic, it was very exciting because it felt like an uprising. But
how were they killed?
They were tanks, soldiers. They were just wiped out of the square. They were wiped out. And then there were retributions all over China, because I got on a train for 2 days to Wuhan. Well, remember Wuhan?
Is that where the COVID started?
Well, I went to Wuhan, down to Hong Kong on a train. It was 2.5, 3 days. I had 9 suitcases at that point with me as well, because I'd been there a year and I bought loads of amazing things, pipes and artifacts. And so dumped it all in, or stored it all in Hong Kong, and went back into China about 8 days later with my ex-wife. And
how long were you married?
29 years.
29 years.
But we had an amazing adventure there.
I bet.
But my point of mentioning my ex-wife is, we went back into China, and we did a bit of a tour. We went down to a matriarchal society in a place called Kunming, in the south of China. We travelled around, and we watched on TV the repercussions that were going on. We came back from China. Then we went to the Philippines, we went to Thailand, we went all over. We went to Vietnam. We did a whole year out there, and then came back. And it was the time of the poll tax riots, and I started doing photojournalism at that when we came back.
So you come back to the UK then?
We came back to the UK.
Okay.
We came back to the UK.
Why did you come back?
We came back because we were going to have a child, and we didn't want to have the child in China. Because that's what happened. We came back. We lived in an anarchist community in West Hampstead. We were squatting for a while. I'd never want my kids to squat. No. But we were in this anarchist community, going to the poll tax riots. I was photographing it all at the time. You remember that time? Well, you'd have been a teenager then, I imagine. I mean, I was only about 22, 23. And it was an amazing time. And then suddenly we had kids. And that altered the course of what I did then, because I think I would have been a foreign correspondent.
Yeah.
But I had two beautiful daughters in my 23, 24 years old. And now they've made me a granddad as well, which is extraordinary.
Yeah.
When my mum and dad there, I always think they're the grandparents,
Yeah, that's
not
right.
me. So weird. But they're the great grandparents.
Yeah.
So then I started writing for some local newspapers in North London.
So money would have been tough back then.
Yeah.
Might have been really tight back then.
Yeah.
When was it in the 90s when you started to realise you're going to break the back of this business model of being a journalist?
I've never really worried about money.
Okay.
Because when I had little money, I didn't really. I'm not really an expensive, showy person. You know, as long as we were managing, we were fine. Yeah. I think we didn't squat out of necessity. We squatted because we wanted to be in the anarchist community. Okay. And as soon as we had kids, I think something changed. Yeah. And you know your responsibility. I was really driven by my girls, you know, my three girls, my ex-wife and my daughters. And the motivation from that, you know, all the kind of competitiveness that I had, all the motivation that I have, was kind of focused into just wanting to do things for them. Yeah. So I wanted to write for the Telegraph. I'd been mentioned in the Telegraph when I was playing cricket at school. I loved the Telegraph. It was my paper. I targeted the Telegraph. I wrote for the Hampstead and Highgate Express, which is a really brilliant North London newspaper. A lot of journalists go on to work for the national newspapers from there. And I started writing about boxing for them as well. And I loved writing about boxing. I wrote about cricket for a while. I covered cricket. I've written about rugby. I've written about everything, every sport for the Telegraph. I mean, one of the proudest things I have is this summer. It'll be my 8th summer Paralympic Games.
You've done 8 of you?
Yeah, since Atlanta in '96.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the Telegraph's won 3 world awards while I've been writing for it as well. It's the body of work that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because it's not sport; it changes society.
Yeah.
And I'm dedicated to it. I think I'll probably end up doing about 11 or 12. But it's a very, very special thing. So what I did was I transferred. I've done foreign reporting. I'll let you get a word in edgeways.
No, keep going, man.
I've done foreign reporting. I've done features. I've done magazine writing, all for the Telegraph. But my main body of work has been on sport, all sports. I was the polo correspondent at one time, but I was covering 8 different sports. But I've also had a foot in commercial deals as well. I've always had a foot in commercial deals with them. I ran our school sports awards. I was the chairman of that. I ran amateur sports. I believe in sport.
Yeah, same.
But the answer to, I had 5. I was an Arsenal correspondent. I had about 5 jobs. By my late 20s, I probably cracked it in terms of, you know, I was getting 40 grand a year by then. And I was working for Agence France Presse on a Saturday, running all the football games.
So that's when you started to break the back of it, in your late 20s?
No, I think I don't.
In terms of financials, in terms of going, right, I was guaranteed 40.
It depends what you mean by that, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
just to give your kids and wife a good life.
They've always had a good life. Yeah. But
you seem
we
to
didn't mind being poor.
Yeah, but that's my point. You seem to be the person. You're like, I don't actually mind as long as I'm happy and doing something I love doing. I'm cool with that. And bringing in money as well. But it wasn't just about the money for you.
I've never been. I would like to say I'm well off now, and I am. Yeah. But I've never been driven by money. I've always been driven by this fucking fierce energy.
Yeah.
I can't help it.
Yeah.
Same when I was clubbing in the 90s, not fucking sleeping for 48 hours. We all did it.
Absolutely.
I won't go into the absolute details, but it's what we did.
Yeah.
And that era's gone.
And there was no camera phones. Imagine if there were camera phones.
There's a lot of things you did then you couldn't do now because people would put a slant on it in terms of what you're doing. Yeah. I feel very blessed in my life. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I've had the struggles, but you know this yourself. When you look back,
Fond memories.
They are, and you go from wild man to wise man, hopefully. That's where you head. And you carry things with you in life. Like, I've got 4 rules, which are be yourself, you are who you mix with, you do reap what you sow. And in my world that I work in, and I think I try to apply this in all things in life, write or broadcast, or maybe even talk about other people in a way that you would only say that to their face as well. And then everybody knows where they are with you, you know? And that might be with Dillian Whyte, and I've had to, you know, there's some guys who've been unhappy with me in the boxing world at times, but that respect level, I want to say as a man, it's not so as a man, it's a human being really, is there then. So, and it's a very sensitive world, the fight world, because if I pick Alexander Usyk to beat Anthony Joshua, my heart might not be saying that, but my head is saying that. And it's not because I don't want him to win. It's just what I think will happen.
And are you 100% honest with who you pick to win?
I've always.
100%.
Always.
Do you ever get the fear that you won't be on the payroll on something if you didn't pick the right boxer? Because that must come into the mind.
I know that they might be upset sometimes. I've picked against Tyson Fury. I picked against him when he fought Klitschko. I picked against him when he fought Wilder the first time. I love it when people prove me wrong. But you don't always get the chance to have that conversation with that person, say, this is why I picked it. And let's be honest, fight sports, expect the unexpected. Absolutely. Anything can happen.
Especially in heavyweight.
Especially in heavyweight, because one punch can change.
What went on with you and Dillian Whyte?
I wrote a story in the Telegraph, and I didn't write the headline, and it said drugs cheats. Oh
no!
And I remember getting a text from him late at night saying, you know, who the fuck are you to call me a drugs cheat? And to be fair to him, when I explained the headline and when we met, and he put that big bear's arm around me, and I love Dillian, and I think he's a superb human being, an extraordinary man, a father at 13.
A father of 13?
He was a father at 13.
Oh, at 13, okay.
At 13. No, he could be a father at 13.
But still,
But being a father at 13, he's had an extraordinary life.
I like him as a fighter.
Oh, yeah. And he'll be back in the mix soon.
Definitely.
But it's...
How did that make you feel then? Because you must have just gone, you know, sometimes you say something.
I got my baseball bat ready. I double locked the doors.
I think he'd still do you with all that.
I reminded my Rottweiler to lie by the door all night or by the bed.
I would still back Dillian. How do you feel though? You know when you get beep and you go, Dillian Whyte, you're like, oh shit, you've taken it the wrong way or it's been misconstrued. How do you deal with that? What's your instant reaction?
I'm disappointed, but you can't control everything. And I probably knew deep down, even though I felt, oh shit, I'm going to have to deal with this scenario. You can't always, sometimes you have to, it's a bit like as you get older, I think pain is easier to deal with. Physical pain, emotional pain. When you get to, I'm a little bit older than you, when you get to...
A little bit?
Yeah, only a little bit.
Shut up.
Only a little bit.
Have you seen this boat?
I'm looking over at your crew. They're nodding with me. I've dealt with a lot of difficult scenarios in life.
But go back to the Dillian one. You received that. You received the text. You go, oh shit. Do you phone him straight away, or do you go, I'll leave it to the morning?
No, I've texted him back
immediately.
Pretty much, yeah, because. I
have to deal with it, yeah.
I know that I've written an honest piece.
Okay.
I think at the time, 7 of the top 10 fighters in the world had popped for something.
Yeah.
I tested positive or had adverse findings.
Okay.
So the story, it's the worst thing in boxing as well.
Yeah.
Drugs, because, you know, it's an inherently dangerous sport. And your body is your weapon, isn't it? And the last thing we ever want is someone to have taken an illegal substance that's on the banned list, enhance their body, and potentially kill another person or damage them irreparably. So,
or damage themselves.
Absolutely. Or damage themselves.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had that heat in me when I got the text. But also, I think I've learned that many fighters are very emotional. And I didn't know how. I thought, well, he might feel very bad towards me. He might go after me. I've had Deontay Wilder right in my face. Look at the clip, giving it to me in my face like that.
What about?
I interviewed.
I've seen that clip. In fact, he comes straight into your boat, didn't he? He was like, "What was that about?" To be fair to you, you did stand up to him. You didn't bottle it.
No, but I didn't feel intimidated.
No.
Why should I?
Yeah, no.
Why should I?
Yeah. You did look him in the eyes. You carried on looking him in the eyes.
No, the mistake would have been to do that. And I was thinking about it at the time. I had my glasses on. I think.
But you never hit a man with glasses on. You did a good move keeping them on.
Yeah, exactly. And I was patting him on the shoulder, going, "All right, all right." And Deontay is I would say is a friend within the industry as well. It was because Tyson Fury had come back from 10 stone. It was for the first fight.
The first
Fury
fight when he lost his 10 stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
He came back and he fought Battle of Los Angeles, 2018. The draw that shouldn't really have been a draw. Tyson won that, I think.
Definitely.
And Deontay his nose was out of joint because he was saying, if I had been binging and 10 stone overweight and come back, the Americans wouldn't have treated me like a returning hero.
Right.
Why are you all treating Tyson Fury like a returning hero, like the prodigal son who's come back and he's redemption and rejuvenation? Yeah. And I think,
but we love that in England.
We love someone who's hit rock bottoms come back. He was going, "You tell your friend Tyson Fury," because he knew how close I was at the time. Okay. And I'd been to visit Tyson in his house in Los Angeles, and I was doing lots of videoing with him. I was in his camp at Freddie Roach's gym, and he was just, what's the worst they're ever going to do? What are they going to slap you? What? I don't want to encourage that, by the way. But.
They're not going to do anything. There's cameras everywhere. They're not going to do anything. Did you interview him and grill him, or did you write something about him? How did he get the ump?
He had it already.
So he had it
when we started the interview, and he thought, as he pulled away, he was like, "You're fucking Tyson Fury's mate, aren't you?" Yeah. I'm gonna tell you. And he was emotional that day, and Fury was winding him up on that promotion, really winding him up. They had a lot of media stuff. And it's all part of the drama of it's theatre, isn't it? And the funny thing is, one of the reasons why, if Deontay Wilder walked in now and came in my face, I would get that adrenaline. Yeah. I didn't really get any adrenaline because a week and a half earlier, I'd been down in the woods by the Black River in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, in the gym with him on an amazing couple of days down there, and seeing where he was from and. Birmingham, Alabama, and getting involved again. Like I was, to go back to the very beginning of this interview, I love investigating those things and how black and white are together there and what it's like in Alabama and how culture is there. And I really respect Deontay. I really, really deeply respect him.
The difference between Deontay in your grill, in your face, to Dillian Whyte in your face would be very different.
Very different.
Very, very different. Because when I saw that with Deontay in your face, listen, he's a tough man. He's a heavyweight champion of the world, etc. But he hasn't got that bit of naughtiness about him compared to a Dillian or compared to
I agree.
Some others,
I agree. No, but Dillian has a bristling energy when he walks into the room, like Mike Tyson still does if he's in the mood.
Yeah.
And I've met Mike Tyson several times, and I would like to say I'm a friend of his, and we talk about darkness and light when we.
How nice is that? I like to think I'm a friend of Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Probably one of the greatest boxers ever.
Well, the reason.
A nice line to have.
Mike is a very wise human being. He's a wild. As I said, I spoke to him I had dinner with him in Riyadh. Might have been last October. I think it was the last time I had dinner with him, with his family, and we had a little chat. And yes, right, we went to the Legends dinner as well, and we had a quite a long chat. And I just wanted to remind him that, and I don't know if you have this in your life, but I was saying to him about we go from wild men to wise men. You're still a fucking wild man, and he's still a wild man, and because you've always got it in you.
He's got that glint in his eyes.
But if you've got wild man in you, you've always got it. But as you get older,
you tame it.
You tame it. You're not going to have road rage or do something stupid. Or if someone's being a twat to you, they've had a bad day. Yeah. So we know that. Yeah. That's being grown up. That's being a wise man. And I just wanted to remind him, because I believe in life, even though I've studied a lot of religions and been in different places, I like the universe and I like the sun and the moon. And you probably sound pagan, if anything. And when light and darkness comes in your life, and when you're having an amazing day, darkness can suddenly come. I just wanted to remind Mike, when darkness comes for him sometimes, and he's one of the most transformative human beings in the public I think we've got on the planet, just remember how many people love you. Because there's millions of people that love Mike Tyson and what he represents and what he's done. And that for me is my brotherhood towards him. Yeah. I feel emotional saying it. And I know he appreciates that. He appreciated when we had that conversation recently, because he was listening. And
he's got that vibe. I've met Mike in Vegas.
Same vibe as
vibe. It's like,
if he's not happy,
you can tell. Yeah. We had a good conversation. You can tell. I couldn't believe the size of him.
I know, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Extraordinary as a boxer and a fighter.
He's our size. Yeah, he's our size, and he's fighting the super heavyweights.
Your size.
Yeah, my size. Yeah.
Like,
what, you big boy, are you?
Well, bigger. He's literally, what is he, 5'10"?
Yeah, he is 5'10".
Like, when you stand next to him, you're like, my God, you are a small heavyweight, but that glint in his eye, and the power and the force
and the technique and the belief.
Unbelievable.
And the belief.
Who do you reckon would win in his heyday, Mike Tyson or Tyson Fury?
Such a difficult fight. I'm going to say Tyson Fury, even though I don't want to. Yeah. My heart probably says Mike Tyson. Yeah. But I think Tyson Fury is so big.
So we're talking 6'9" versus 5'10".
He's going to get hold of him and smother him, but if he got caught, might come
the old rib tickler,
No, but coming up underneath. Oh, it's a great ask. Recently, I've been thinking about who are the greatest heavyweights ever, and I reckon Lennox Lewis is very close to the best ever. I saw Len out in Riyadh.
He's a West Ham fan.
And he's a West fan.
Even better.
And he's Jamaican, Canadian, and British. He is an amazing human being. And I tell you what, he's one of those guys who's amazing to be around. Yeah.
He's calm, isn't he?
Very calm. Yeah. But I love Mike Tyson in a way that you want things to work for Mike Tyson. You know?
Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul. I really hope Mike Tyson knocks him out. Because Jake Paul, even though he's not a full-on boxer, he's a tough boy. And he's got a good right hand on him. I just hope Mike Tyson just takes him out early doors. What are your thoughts?
That's the only way he can win it.
Yeah.
I worry for his health in the fight.
Yeah.
I worry that, Mike's a year younger than me, and I'm just thinking, God, to be that age, he's got the ulcer now. It wouldn't surprise me if he got another injury in the next training camp. They moved the fight to November, haven't they? Yeah. I don't begrudge him getting in there and earning a ton of money, but I worry about
his health.
Yeah, that's it.
Agree.
And of course I want him to knock out Jake Paul.
I'm dying for him to knock out
Jake Paul's a good kid.
Yeah,
I know him quite well. I know him quite well.
How would you explain Jake Paul? Because on the front, there's a lot of British go, he's annoying, whatever.
He's got a huge set of balls on him.
He has, hasn't he?
Yeah, huge set of balls to do what he's done.
Yeah, I agree.
And
he's
to expose his life. And to expose his life like that, I kind of admire. Obviously, it's organic how it's happened. They were gamers, weren't they?
That's right.
And they've got in, it's like KSI I've met as well. And again, huge set of balls. Yeah. I'm glad, I love fight sports, but I don't mind that misfits element in it. And of all of them, Jake Paul would probably take it the furthest. He's genuine he's addicted to training and fighting and compartmentalizing the fear and the adrenaline and all those things.
Fair play to him, by the way, what he's done.
Yeah, but I don't like the Tyson-Paul fight, but I will go to it and I will write on it and I will broadcast.
Who will win that fight? Mike Tyson, Jake Paul?
Well, my caveat is, like you said, I think Mike Tyson's got about 2 to 4 minutes to win that fight. Otherwise, it'll just Paul will grab him, tire him, and age will catch up with Mike in that fight. I just don't want to see him knocked down.
I don't want to see him knocked down. I don't want to see him lose.
No, I don't. It's almost like I don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I don't. Exactly. I think the whole world don't want him to see lose.
No.
I want to go back to Dillian Whyte.
You're fascinated.
I'm fascinated, no, because I want to dig a bit deeper here. Because you received that text. Did you shit yourself straight away?
No.
Did you go, oh my God, I need to get back to you and explain myself?
No, like I said the Rottweiler to the door. I got the baseball bat. No, of course I didn't. No,
And when did you, and after that, did you know he'd calmed down on text or a phone call? And when was the first time you saw him eye to eye?
A couple of weeks later, I think it was an Anthony Joshua weigh-in at do you know the Islington Design Centre? I think he texted me back and said, we need to talk. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, don't name a time and a place because I ain't coming on my own. You know, Dillian is heavy, but he's also. It's actually since then I flew out to Portugal to interview him for DAZN and do an off the cuff. I think he nearly cried that day, actually, when I interviewed him. We met at the Islington Design Centre. We were at I think it was a Joshua press conference, or a weigh-in, sorry. It was a weigh-in. And I didn't feel... I think he just wanted to square it off. Okay. And I said, I don't think you're a drugs cheat. And I didn't write that in the piece. And the headline was put on there. And that's not what I think of you.
Okay.
You know?
Were you nervous before you go there? Not at all.
No, because I'm not his target.
No,
I'm not a threat to him. You know, the pen is
but roles reverse. If I've seen that title laid out about me, and I see you coming in, and I'm clocking you going, I still think you wrote that title. Or did he straight away go, I know you didn't write the title.
I'd already explained it to him, and fighters are. They know who their targets are. They want to. They have that call of the warrior deep inside of them, and he's not trying to prove anything against me. He was just hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But by that headline, because he made a mistake earlier in his career, got a ban. It was an over-the-counter product, if you recall, and I think it was probably before then, or it might have been after the Rivas. I can't remember the actual date stamp on this, but there wasn't. What you're asking me is, do fighters ever intimidate me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really, because I know in my heart that I want the best for fighters.
Yeah.
So that is my platform. I don't go after people. I don't, that is not my objective.
But it must be tough writing a piece like that as you're writing.
I'm critical sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
I knew Rickie Hatton's family really well. I wrote one critical piece of him, and Carol his mum didn't speak to me for 4 or 5 years and rang me up and said, why did you write that piece? Well, because when I went to see him before he fought Manny Pacquiao, and I went to see her I had got her on Woman's Hour on the BBC when he was fighting Mayweather. When he was training for Pacquiao, he looked like a hollow shell to me, and I had to write it because I went to see him in camp, and he didn't look right. Coogan Cassius was his minder at that time, by the way. Coogan that does IFL TV now. And I didn't feel that I could write anything different. And that's probably the only negative piece I ever wrote about him. Yeah. And that's what his mum remembered. Yeah.
But the thing is, people can write 1,000 pieces on you, and you're thank you. That one piece can stick in your mind and play mind games for a long time. Yeah.
You know, it's a bit like when you do 1 times 10, 2 times 10, and you 8 times 10 is 90. That's the line everyone remembers. Yeah. And that's human, but that's the brain. That's how the brain works.
What did you notice in Rickie on camp on that point then? So this is before the Mayweather fight?
No, it was before
the Pacquiao fight. Okay, what did you notice in him?
I went out early.
Where'd you go out to?
To Vegas.
Okay.
I went to visit him. Paul Speak, his manager, was there, and a listlessness. Not the buzz we felt around him when he fought Mayweather. Like he was hollow, like he'd been in camp too long, like he went out too early. I went back to his apartment.
Physically drained, mentally drained?
Just not there.
Okay.
And like he was in the fight.
Yeah.
He wasn't there. He was like a statue.
Yeah.
And something wasn't right in his life. I don't know whether it was emotional, but you have a radar for these things when you're around fighters. Sometimes I'll pick a winner. I'll pick Artur Beterbiev to beat Dmitry Bivol in October, for example. But in fight week, when you're around them, you sense. It's just an instinct.
Yeah, of course.
It's like an instinct.
It's energy.
It is energy.
Yeah.
It is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's energy, Dodge.
Yeah.
It is exactly that. Why are you Dodge, by the way?
Got the same name as my old man. I'm since a young kid, Dodge. I've been Dodger all the way through. Why are you Gareth A. Davies?
Because when I went away to school, because I went to a Welsh public school, and there were a lot of Davises, and there were other...
There's thousands of Davies in Wales, isn't there?
Thousands.
And
My
Gareths.
dad wrote on my trunk, Gareth A. Davis on my trunk.
Your old man wrote on your trunk?
On my...
Oh, trunk.
You know, the trunk that you take away to school with all your things in.
Yeah.
Still got it.
Yeah, okay.
And I was always GA on all the...
GA Davies. GAD.
On all the team sheets. Because all your initials go on the team. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Rugby and cricket, all your initials go on the team sheet, don't they? So that's the only reason.
How many countries have you watched boxing in, would you say?
Ooh, I've never counted it, but I know that I've worked in lockdown when I lived on my own for 7 weeks and pruned a lot of friends and lost 25 kilos.
Lost 25
because I'd had a heart attack. I had a heart attack just for lockdown.
Whoa, hold on a minute. You had a heart attack?
Yeah.
When? What year?
It's about 4.5 years ago now. Yeah.
Tell me, why?
I think I'd been on a podcast at the
Overweight?
time. No, diabetes.
Drinking?
Diabetes, yeah. The excesses,
okay.
from the 90s
have caught up with you.
Have caught up, which they do, by the way, when you get to my age, Dodge.
Yeah.
They did. They had caught up with me, and I wasn't taking care of myself, and I wasn't the physical being that I used to be till probably 35.
Okay.
When a lot more money started coming, and then I had rental properties.
Okay.
And I was working with my builders and doing 4 different journalistic jobs.
Juggling lots.
Kids were growing up.
Burning the candle.
Burning the candle. All of that. Yeah.
And what? How old were you when you had a heart attack?
53.
53.
Yeah.
Did you know from that 35 in your 40s that you were overweight and you weren't eating well?
Oh yeah, I hated how big I was.
Okay. And why was that? Sugar, rubbish food?
My stress and anxiety. Yeah, stress and anxiety. I'm not really a gym person. I'm an outdoors doing shit.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so cycling and paddleboarding, running.
Okay.
You know, I'm not a gym guy.
Okay.
Never been a gym guy. I'd rather go and bowl in the nets for 3 hours at Lord's or paddleboard for 7 hours or cycle across the country. That would inspire me more than, I mean, I've got some weights at home and stuff, but being in the gym, I want to be outside.
Yeah, I get it.
You know, I want to be outside. But I'd stopped doing that. Work had taken me over, and the anxiety and stress of work, overeating, a couple of Red Bulls in the morning, driving to Newcastle or driving to, do you know what I mean? A sandwich crisp.
Yeah.
Just, I don't eat shit now.
Takes its toll, right?
It does.
How old were you? You had the heart attack at 53. How old were you when you split up with your wife?
51.
Do you reckon that had a part to play in it?
Definitely.
Were you heartbroken when you split up?
Definitely. I broke hers and then she broke mine.
Okay. How did you break hers?
Cheating.
Okay. How did she break yours?
That she didn't want to be together anymore.
Okay.
And it was hard to deal with.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of collateral to split up. Yeah. Look, for everybody, divorce is not easy. It really isn't easy.
Especially with kids as well. Yeah.
We were together from the last year at university, all the way through China, coming back, all those things I told you about. beautiful woman, absolutely beautiful woman. We're not really friends anymore, which I regret.
Is that her choice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you blame her?
No.
No.
No, I don't actually.
No, I wouldn't.
I think we've both grown afterwards, and I've got back to myself. And I mean, we've got two amazing daughters, Mia and Lottie, 33 and 35 coming up.
What do they do?
Lottie works for a local council in London and is a magistrate. And Mia has got a law degree and she's a mum. She's got two kids. And her partner, they both got partners. Mia's partner is a war correspondent, I'll put it.
Okay.
But he doesn't go to those places.
Yeah.
So I really like their partners. And my other daughter, Lottie, her partner is a senior guy in another London Borough Council.
You had a heart attack at 53.
Yeah.
Your missus caught you out cheating at 51.
Well, it was a bit earlier than that.
But it come to a head around then.
Yeah.
What's that feeling like, knowing you got caught out, knowing that you're not in the best of health? Were you getting pains in your chest? Were you getting, how does someone get a heart attack? What's the feeling?
I had a stitch in here for a while.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of sports injuries. And I'm used to pushing through. Yeah. That go back to the 90s when you clubbed all weekend, didn't sleep.
72
and went
hours.
with enhancements sometimes. And went to work on a Monday or did your job on a Saturday night and then went back out again. I don't know why we did it, but we just did. Yeah. That was vogue, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and I'm not kind of saying
so
there were millions of us doing it. It really was vogue. Yeah. And we didn't drink alcohol. We drank
all water and beans.
And I can remember many times the nightclub bouncer saying, "We're closing, yeah.
Get out at 6 a.m.
6 a.m. Walking back across the heath.
Find me another party somewhere. Get me another party.
Oh, yeah, I've done that. Go over to East London and it's a day club. And yeah. Now, I'd only do a day club if I'm honest.
Same.
But also my
day club's the way forward these days. Get me a day club.
At home,
get me
3 a.m. in bed.
Yeah, that's my rule or nothing good happens after midnight.
Nothing good happens after 3 a.m. in my world.
Rock and roll.
After 3 a.m. it is for me. In bed, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Because after that.
So where do you get this build up? You must have you must have had a lot of pressure on you, physically, emotionally, losing your wife, kids finding out, then you pushing into lockdown coming, all of a sudden, bam.
It was just before lockdown.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. So I'd been seeing a girl in America, in California. I was flying over there a lot. I was working for Bellator. I'd worked for the UFC for many years, as well as my boxing. And then I was working for Bellator. I was seeing this girl in San Francisco. I was traveling so much.
I'm sure. That takes its toll itself.
No, it really does.
Jesus, you don't know what time zone you're in, sleep. And
I was really enjoying my time with her. And I'd be like, over here for 4 days, do a radio show, do a fight, jump on a flight on the Sunday morning. And that's how the heart attack occurred. I had a stitch in here for about 7 weeks. And I was thinking,
okay,
what is that? How can I get rid of it? And
did you think it was muscular at the time?
Yeah, I did. Okay. I did. And again, I've changed. I calling an ambulance, going to hospital, getting medically checked.
Yeah. Wake up call, right?
No, but I've never been like that. No, ever.
Okay. Yeah.
You push through.
Yeah.
I've bowled 20 overs with a broken ankle. I play rugby with cut. You know what I mean?
You crack on.
You just crack on. And we are very much that generation. I'm saying we, relax. But I genuinely, I'm just being honest about this, stupidly cracked on and just used to doing it, feeling completely invincible. Yeah. And I believe it's life force. You know, when you've got the energy of, I would say you're going to do stuff. And I'm much more thoughtful about things now, and I listen to my body a lot more. All I was doing was going, this will go away. I'll take some painkillers. Okay. It'll be fine. Then it came to a head one Friday night. I just could not get sleep, and I was in a lot of pain in my chest. I even rang one of my daughters, and she said, "Why don't you call? Is it 111?
Not sure.
No, 911. No, but there's a
one that you don't go to.
Yeah,
help. Yeah, that's right.
And I said, "No, I'll be all right. I'll just take some painkillers and I'll sleep." But I got through the night. I had the heart attack. Got through the night. Felt a bit weird. arms very heavy. Went to do a show at TalkSport that night, who I worked for as well, on a Saturday night. And my arms were really heavy. Drove in, and I think my heart was working about 30% at the time. And
so you had a heart attack and then you went into work?
yeah, an artery blocked by about 4 inches.
Yeah.
But my body had managed to push enough blood around that it was still working.
Okay.
As it was about 30%. So I went to work for TalkSport. I was going to Vegas on the Monday. So I did TalkSport. My arms felt really heavy. I did the show. I drove home. I thought, I feel really rough. It took me ages to pack. I thought, I'll just sleep Sunday and I'll get up early Monday morning and I'll be fine. I'll drive to the airport. I'll be fine. But when I woke up on the Monday morning about 5, I thought, no, I'm not going to go. And I was going for about 6 or 7 trips over 8 weeks, different fights in America, boxing, MMA. And I just called, sometimes you don't know why. I called a surgery near me. I went in, saw the doctor, and she said straight away, no, you've had a heart attack. You need to go to hospital now. Did you drive here? Yes, I drove here. My little old Jag.
Yeah.
That's staying here. Yeah. We're getting you an ambulance to hospital now. So they took me to hospital. Then they took me to Basildon. They've got a brilliant heart hospital there, heart unit. They couldn't get it. They put me in. Later on the day, they couldn't get the blockage sorted. Okay. But they said, your body, you're going to have to take it easy, but your body is managing. They gave me some medicines. But it's going to be about 4 months before you get we need 2 machines to do it. And I'm like, no. I'm like, what do I need to do to get this done now?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I paid to have it done. Yeah. I met a brilliant heart surgeon, Dr. Paul Kelly, who's become a friend. He's a cyclist. He lives down in Southend. He's a brilliant doctor. And so I got it sorted. And then lockdown came. And I think you're right. Your radar is right. Your sense is right that I think it was a build-up of lifestyle, emotional stuff, diabetes I discovered I had. Yeah. And then lockdown came and I was on my own. Yeah. And it's one of the best times I've ever had in my life. Yeah. I live out in a little village. I've got a little plot. I live very near Eddie Hearn, actually. And I started cycling. I worked every day because there was a lot of journalism to do during lockdown. And I started cooking for myself, ordering from the local farm.
Good for you. And
I was proud of going 4 miles on the bike to begin with. Yeah. Then I met a girl who was paddleboarding and started paddleboarding. And I just thought, this is amazing.
Yeah. Slowed everyone down, didn't it?
After 2 months, I just felt like I was 30 again. Yeah. And the weight just dropped off. And I got rid of anxiety. Yeah. I got rid of anxiety from work. I got rid of eating shit. I got rid of so many things. Yeah. I pruned friends because I think I'm too much of a giver. I'm not selfish enough.
What do you mean you pruned friends? Got rid of friends? Cut them off?
You know when you probably worked in lockdown. I mean, I worked. I had things I had to do. There was a lot of journalism to do.
I love lockdown, by the way.
Yeah, I did.
Created 2 new business, created a podcast.
Ducks in a row.
Amazing. It slowed me down for the first time to look back, to stop and go, God, the amount of parties and festivals and events you put on over the last 24 years, you get to stop and realise what you've done because the people we are, it's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What we're creating? What we're building? You know? I really enjoed it. And it was sunny.
I had some amazing, absolutely. Oh, it was amazing. That was amazing, that first 3 months. Yeah. I spoke to my parents a lot, which I hadn't done in years, like a lot. Yeah. I spoke to people who I didn't speak to enough over the last 15, 20 years. And I realized, like you said, the stillness came. Yeah. And even to the point where you were in there was no noise pollution from aeroplanes.
That's right.
And there was, I saw more of nature when I went out. It's like I discovered paths I'd never even been anywhere near in 25 years.
Mindful. You just come
really mindful. That is the word.
And
mindful.
the beautiful of mindfulness is probably one of the nicest things a human could have. It's like a drug.
It is.
But as we get back into the normal world, mindfulness goes away. You've got to work at mindfulness.
But that's why it's distractions. Yeah. It's because, on the course of our existence, that, we take opportunities sometimes. We are distracted by things. And a degree of selfishness is so important. And it's just selfishness, the evolution of us as a being. And I without being too
No, I hear you.
kind of, because there's a lot of gurus out there now.
Yeah.
I mean on Instagram, and there's a lot of life
I don't
gurus.
listen to 95%.
I don't listen to any of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'd rather read. And also, we are the book. We
We're
are the
writing
book.
our own book.
We are writing our own book the whole time.
Have you written a book?
No, but I'm doing a book at the moment called Call of the Warrior with a brilliant photographer, Sonia Jasinski, that's coming out in a couple of months. And I've written 30 essays. Sonia. Do you know Sonia?
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah. She been on your podcast?
No, she hasn't. How do I know Sonia? That name really rings a bell. Did she used to go with a rugby player? Married to a rugby player? I know Sonia. I do know Sonia. I know Sonia. Yeah. Lovely girl.
Lovely girl.
Lovely girl.
And I've been doing a book with her for 5 years.
Okay.
Which stretched from before COVID to after. And we've got all the boxes of the era.
Wonderful.
It's a coffee table book.
Wonderful.
And I'm writing essays on them all. But it's all about the call, the DNA inside them that calls them to be a warrior.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How nice is that?
Yeah, I'm happy
Say hello to
that's
Sonia for me.
I will.
Did Sonia
Hello,
marry-
Sonia.
Hello, Sonia. I haven't seen you in years, but she's a lovely girl.
She is a lovely girl.
Did she marry the owner of DAZN or someone for
Simon Denyer, who she was married to, was the COO or CEO of
Are they still together?
No.
I think okay.
No.
We'll leave that one. What are your movements like? You said you live near Eddie. What's your relationship like with Barry Hearn?
Very good. Barry is
the salt of the earth, one of the nicest fellows you meet.
Yeah.
I would love to see him go to Prime Minister or go for, he's not going to do it, or head of sport or something, because he just speaks utter sense. And he makes commercial deals work where it's win-win situations for everyone.
Yeah. Barry, I would put in my list. As I get older, I look for mentors in their 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
my father is one to me, and my mother, they're mentors for me.
Barry's one to me.
Yeah, and Lord Redknapp, as I call him, the man that won the 400 metres in the London schoolboys in hobnail boots, and was a decent boxer as a schoolboy boxer, by the way.
Was it Harry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always talk to Harry. I think he's a lefty. Was he a lefty as a footballer or not?
Not sure.
No, I'm not sure.
Not sure.
But Harry loves to chat about boxing. He's a wonderful human being, Harry.
I love Harry.
I really enjoyed going back to talk about the past. But what I'd say about Barry Hearn, Frank Warren, Bob Arum, Colin Hart, these people for me are mentors without whom I wouldn't be as good at what I do.
I hear you. What a lovely thing to say.
But it's true.
What a lovely thing to say. I'm the same with, as a mentor of Harry Redknapp, because he lives up the road here, and having a Barry Hearn as a mentor. How lovely. They're two wonderful. You know what they've got? You know what I like about these old school values?
Yeah.
They've got time for people.
Yeah.
They've got time for people. And that is
and you're mentoring people now as well.
Absolutely.
And I'm mentoring people.
I love mentoring people.
I agree.
And you get these wonderful values from my dad's my hero and my mentor.
Yeah.
You know, manners, respect, all these things that aren't around these days, you know?
And also there's an apprenticeship to things that sometimes I have to pinch myself. In lockdown, I wrote down, there was time to, when my dad was 80, I said, right.
Is he still about, your old man?
Yeah. My parents live in Cyprus,
What are their names?
Gloria and Keith.
Give a shout out to Gloria and Keith.
Oh, they'll love that. They'll watch this. My dad watches a lot of my work now, and he studies a lot. He's very, very good on military history, what's going on globally.
Tell me about Bob Arum.
Okay.
What's Bob Arum like?
Bob he's an instinctual, now at 92, he's an instinctive, did you see the other day when
he went in the
Jack
ring?
Catterall and Josh Taylor fought? Yeah. Now, he was walking away from the ring, and then he thought, no, fuck it, I'm going to speak.
Yeah.
So he went and checked the microphone, because remember Bob is famous saying, yesterday I was lying to you, but today I'm telling the truth.
Is that his one liner?
Yeah, but also, but no, it's gone beyond that, because I joked with him about it when who was it fighting? When Pacquiao and Mayweather fought, the fight that was delayed 5 years, that earned $600 million, $500 or $600 million. Yeah, Jesus. And it was an amazing event to cover. One of the most amazing events I've ever covered, because it was so immense.
Where was that?
Las Vegas.
It was in Vegas again.
And was it 2017? I can't remember exactly now,
Yeah.
but it was sometime then. And then we had Mayweather and McGregor that we covered. That was the crossover fight.
Were you there as well?
Yes, of course.
Amazing.
Of course.
Mate, you are one lucky man.
I agree.
Aren't you?
I agree.
One
But Bob,
yeah.
at that time I said, Bob, are you lying to us today or are you telling us the truth? He said, I'm so fucking old, I can't remember what the truth is anymore. So,
what he said.
So when Bob stepped into that ring recently, he was wandering off, you know, and he's got I mean, he's a little guy now because he's hunched over, but he's got a bear of a personality and a bear of knowledge. You got to remember that in the 60s, before he met Muhammad Ali, he was a newly minted Harvard lawyer in the Kennedy administration.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
And they got him to investigate corruption in boxing. And he met Muhammad Ali and that changed his life.
Oh, wow.
And that's how he got into it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Very interesting man.
Is he bang on the ball? Do you know when they were like Eddie was having a bit of back and forward with each other?
They worry about what Bob's going to say.
Okay.
But that's all. But because...
You don't know what's going to come out of his mouth.
Bob's in an irascible mood.
Yeah.
When I go to Vegas, I always go and spend half a day in his office with him. I always sit down and I'll talk about Trump. I'll talk about American politics. We'll talk about British politics. We'll talk about the world for a bit and then we'll get on to fights. And I always like to pick his brain about Marvin Hagler because it was one of my favourite, if not my favourite boxer.
Wonderful fighter.
And I met him and I went to Morocco with him and Daley Thompson once. Yeah.
With him and Daley Thompson?
With him and Daley Thompson on a you know, have you heard the Laureus World Sports Academy?
No.
I went on a project with him with girls in the countryside with them to girls in the countryside who are were in Morocco in a
What training camp was this for?
but it was a project with Nawal El Moutawakel, who was the first Islamic woman to win a gold medal at the Olympics, 400 meter hurdles in 84, I think it was, in Los Angeles. And Nawal she was the sports minister in Morocco. And she wanted to change things for girls and not get married for them in the countryside, not for them to get married at 16 and never leave the kitchen and always looking at having 4 kids. And we played basketball. We went to, it was like a sports college for girls in the countryside. And Marvelous came, and Daley Thompson came, who I haven't seen him for a while, but we were good friends. And he's an amazing man. Still playing football in the park with his kids when he was 50.
What's he now? What's Daley Thompson now? He's in his 60s, isn't he?
I think he's probably 62.
Okay.
No, he's probably older than that even. But what I love about Daley, he'd say, I remember him telling me, oh yeah, when my sons were like 12 or 14 or 15, their mates were still knocking saying, Daley, you're coming out to play football in the park with us. And he'd always go. One of the greatest athletes I think we've ever seen. Scottish, Jamaican, Scottish, Nigerian.
That's right.
Because I like to study how DNA makes great athletes and fighters. You know, it's hard not to do it. And it's not racial, it's about bone structure and history in that culture. And it's the studying of the art of the warrior.
Bob Arum, what's his company called?
What's his
company?
Top Rank.
Top Rank.
Top Rank Inc.
How wealthy is Bob Arum?
I don't know, I've never asked him.
No, but from what you know.
I think it's the hundreds of millions.
It's hundreds of millions.
I think so. What I really like about Bob, what he did that day when he turned back and came in the ring and grabbed the microphone was he knew how to steal a public relations moment. He took the heat off his fighter and he suggested a trilogy. That's what he was doing in that moment. And it was brilliant. And that kind of maverick genius you can't do unless you've got
experience.
And everyone stood back and they knew he was... If someone else had done it and they'd only been promoting a couple of years,
like,
they'd have gone, whatever.
Exactly.
But
he's earned the right. He's 92 for God's sake.
He has earned the right. And the older you get, you do earn the right to do things.
To say what you want when you want.
And you should.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you fucking well should.
Absolutely.
If I'm on a train and I'm going to Newcastle and that lady sitting next to me is 80 years old and she's got on the wrong train and this has happened and there's a train conductor going, you're on the wrong train, you owe us £90. I am not going to let that happen because she's emptying her purse out of her pension money. Come on. We are the age of prime ministers. If we can't stand up, you've got to stand up, haven't you?
Agree.
And everybody agreed with that day, you know?
What's your relationship like with Eddie?
Very, very good. I'm very fond of Eddie. I think he's brilliant.
I think what he's done for the sport's pretty phenomenal, right?
Yeah, and he's learning
Amazing.
all the time, and he admits that he makes mistakes sometimes.
I like it when he admits he makes mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
It's endearing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest mistake he's made in the last 6 years, Dodge, is not making that Wilder-Joshua fight, because now we'll never get it. The Deontay Wilder, for those that don't follow boxing or will watch your podcast.
Do you think that will be? It's definitely not there.
No, it won't happen. It won't happen.
Even if the money's right.
No, because Deontay Wilder is haunted figure now, and he's done. And that fight was worth 50 million from 2018 onwards. Yeah. And
why did that fight? Why did Anthony Joshua Deontay Wilder fight not happen?
Ego.
Okay.
Timing. If Deontay Wilder had beaten Zhili Zhang a couple of weeks ago in Riyadh, we'd have got Joshua and Wilder.
Okay. I like Zhili Zhang.
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
I like him.
Yeah, I like him as well.
Well, how big is he standing next to him?
He's a big man.
Because his Swede is like that big, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He is a big, and he's got a very corkscrew sense of humour as well.
Is he menacing? Has he got that menacing vibe about him?
He's sneaky.
Is he? Okay.
Sneaky left hand.
Yeah, he's got a great left hand, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But is he menacing when speaking to him? Or
No,
is he just
not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. But he is solid. You believe in him when you're with him. I've got so many photos of me with him, because I talk a little bit of Chinese with him normally. He's got, and I've got tiny fists, but he's got fists twice the size of mine. He's big in every way, you know. Big bang zhang.
Have you seen the size of Anthony Joshua's knuckles?
Yeah, they're very long.
It's like having a duster on there.
It is, but some boxers have very fine fingers, you know, very fine hands.
Yeah.
Tony Bellew doesn't have big hands, and yet he has got a big clout on him. Have you had him on?
No. I'd like to get Tony Bellew on for sure. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
He's got a great story.
Yeah, he has. He has.
What's Anthony Joshua really like?
I don't really know him intimately. I really like him.
I really like him.
He's very respectful. I've scrutinised him a lot, because he's probably one of the most scrutinised boxers we've ever had. Yeah. I think what he's achieved is extraordinary. I think the way he's carried himself is amazing. I really want him to fight Tyson Fury.
Same.
It's the richest fight in the world. Yeah. It's the biggest fight for us.
Does Anthony Joshua really want that fight? Does Eddie Hearn really want that fight?
Yes.
Does Tyson Fury really want that fight?
Yes.
What's preventing this?
Timing
right now?
Sequence, yeah. Okay. The fact that Joshua's lost twice to Usyk.
Yep.
And Fury has lost once to Usyk.
So if Fury loses again to Usyk, that fight's on. AJ versus Fury. Because if Fury beats Usyk next one, you've got the trilogy.
No. If Fury beats Usyk, we will get Fury and Joshua next, guaranteed, as long as Fury will do it.
So they won't want the trilogy, or they want the trilogy after that fight?
After. Okay. That makes sense.
Because I look at the glint in Eddie's eye and AJ's eye when they talk about that fight. I can tell they want that fight badly. Let's just make this happen.
Yeah. It's worth £250 million, that fight.
So it's worth 250. Break that down. That 250 mil is part of pay-per-view, part of the purse. How will that get split?
I think they'll get 100 million each.
Wow.
I think they'll get 100 million each.
God, we wanted that fight tomorrow, though.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Well, of course, money, ego, and timing make the big fights happen. And because of the Saudi Arabian investment at the moment, it's completely transformed the heavyweight division. Yeah. People are talking about who are the top 20 in the world. Yeah. It's a year ago, we didn't have that. We had, when is it? Why is it? How is it going to happen?
Or people would just talk about the top 10.
But it's a good era right now. It's a good era.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a very good era.
I think so.
With real renowned characters.
Tell me the impact of Saudi coming on board with the big bags of cash. Eddie working it with his fighters, Frank Warren working it with his fighters, Eddie and Frank coming together and shaking hands after all these years, whether it's gone on through the family or whatever, and going, let's just make shit happen. I quite like Eddie and Frank coming together. It's got a really nice energy. 2 words, paradigm shift. Yeah. Clear. Promoters working together. If we'd had this 6 years ago, as I mentioned just now, we'd have had Joshua fight Deontay Wilder. Yeah.
to see them all working together. I had a lunch in Riyadh a couple of weeks ago where we had Frank Warren, Francis Warren, George Warren, Frank Smith.
Yeah. Who's Eddie's right-hand man.
Eddie's right-hand man. And Eddie sitting in a little group, right? We had 30 of us at a media, and I'm sitting over here.
Brilliant.
To see the 5 of them together. And not just seem to, but they're chatting about
Genuinely
what they can do. It's amazing. And Frank and Eddie, I think they really get on.
Yeah.
Barry and Frank will never get on.
When I had Baz on the podcast, I said, would you ever sit in a room and do a podcast with Frank? He went, 100% not.
No, they couldn't.
No, they couldn't.
No.
I wonder if we could make that happen one day. Now
it would be very bitter. I think.
But I think it'd be great viewing. I think it might just ease that relationship. Go, you know what? Let's put these two together. See what comes out.
They don't need to.
They don't. No, they don't.
They don't need to.
Do you know what he said? I think Baz, I can't remember what he said. He said to me, Dodge, if I was going to be in a podcast, we'd be in a movie together of all the stuff that we've done over the years.
I did a piece on the 50 Years War and the Telegraph between them, where it goes back. Do you know about Freddie King and all of that?
Go on.
Do you know about Freddie King?
No.
Well, Barry used to work with Freddie King. Eddie, Frank didn't get on with
80s?
Eddie King from the 70s into the 80s when they had pool tables.
Oh, we spoke about Freddie, of course. Okay.
And
coin machines,
cigarettes.
Yeah.
And which was then.
Yeah.
They were doing what you're doing today. They were hustling.
Yeah.
And they were, those two promotional families are extraordinary. Frank is a very dear friend. Yeah. Barry is a very dear friend. As I say, and a mentor, I would say. Yeah. I consider them to be friends. Yeah. And they're behemoths in British sport. They are titans.
Yes.
They are dynasties of promoting, and they were never going to be able to sit in the same room together. They were briefly on ITV together with snooker and boxing. They briefly worked together, but Frank is the thoroughbred boxing guy. Yeah. Barry is more the overall sports guy, multi-sports guy, and Barry's had a smoother passage. Yeah. Frank's been shot. Remember, part of his lung removed. Had heart surgery, an amazing survivor in the industry in his 70s, 75 and 72, they are respectively, Hearn and Warren. I think that's right, 75 and 72. Treasure them while they're here.
Agree.
Let's learn from them. Look what they've achieved. Yeah. And we're in an era now, Dodge, where everybody has an opinion on social media, and there's a lot of crap out there that people spout on other people, and I like to celebrate what people can do. Same. I like to help.
See the good in people.
I absolutely do. Yeah. And part of what I do is what I'm good at is storytelling, narrative. I know I'm blathering on about myself today and what I think, because that's the nature of
just hold that. This is nice though. You being on the other side for once, and for you to tell your story.
Well, I'll be the judge of how nice it is. It's nice for you, but
no, it's nice to hear. It's genuinely nice to hear.
I'm an open person, but there's a lot of judgment all the time of people. Judgment of.
Do you think you're judged? Do you think you're Marmite?
Of course I am.
Do you think you're Marmite? Do you think people can't stand
No, I don't consider myself to be Marmite.
I don't consider.
I'm just me.
You, but do you think there's people out there who don't enjoy?
They don't know you.
Yeah,
they don't know you.
Well, hopefully this will open their eyes to people to say this is who.
I don't mind whatever people.
Gareth A. Davies is.
People.
Don't forget the A.
You said that, not me. The people. I know who I am. Yeah. And I'm discovering who I am all the time. And I believe in wisdom, and I believe in evolution. I believe in learning from your mistakes. I'm very lucky to be at where I am in my life right now. And things are good. I've dealt with some difficult things. Last year I had a stroke. Suddenly, I had a blood clot in my brain last year, and I woke up paralyzed one morning last March, and I was in hospital for a few weeks.
So hold on, Jesus!
But
you had the heart attack. Yeah, things happen. You had the heart attack, and then 2 years later you had a stroke.
It's 3.5 years later I had it. Yeah, last year.
And how does a stroke? How do you know if you got a stroke or not?
Well, because I couldn't move my left arm.
So your arm just went completely numb.
Yeah, and it was a very weird sensation, and it was really only my arm, and it was like I can do things if I really, and I'm a physical person, and I thought, I must have slept on my arm. And I rang a friend of mine, Peter Hamlin, who's a consultant neurosurgeon, who I've worked with for years with the Telegraph. He runs the Brain and Spine Foundation. He saved the life of Michael Watson, 6 operations on it. Peter's a wonderful person. And for 30 years, the Telegraph had 50 runners in the London Marathon. We raised money every year with the runners, and I wrote pieces in the Telegraph, and we had this alliance. And my daughter, Lottie, also had a brain disease, I think it was a couple of days after she graduated, called acute demyomyelitis, where she was paralyzed down her left-hand side. And it was like as rare as...
Rocking horse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, like a rare butterfly that people catch. And and we didn't know what she'd had, first of all. And thankfully, after a few months, it went out of her. It was a sclerosis. If you have it more than once, they start to classify it as multiple sclerosis. So, and Lottie's an amazing person. Like, she's got your energy to do things. She runs projects for kids without, you know, she's the magistrate, but runs projects for kids who get free school meals at Lord's, at London Zoo, at Ali Pali for the local council. It's an amazing job. You know, she cares. And so I rang Peter Hamlin. He said, "Oh, right, you've had a stroke. Call the hospital or call an ambulance." Said, "Can you drive?" I said, "Yeah, I can drive. I'm fine. I've got one arm." He said, "Go to hospital, go to A&E, call stroke." And he said, "Which hospitals have you got?" And he even knew where there would be a kind of a stroke unit, if you like. So I rang them. I rang an ambulance, first of all, and it was going to be a couple of hours. So I drove in, went to the hospital. I think I drove in. I can't even remember now. Did I drive in? I think someone drove me.
When you got to the hospital and they knew you had a stroke, what was your...
I just wanted to get in there as soon as possible.
Yeah, but
I was anxious.
But were you thinking, hold on, I've had a heart attack, I've had a stroke, am I on my last legs here?
Yeah, I don't mind about that.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
You got no fear of...
No. I love the universe. I'm happy to go back into it.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
No, I am there. I'm there. I don't have any fear of it.
What's your relationship like with Simon Jordan?
I don't have a relationship with Simon Jordan. No.
What was that little beef you had on the TV?
The Cape Crusader?
Yeah, the Cape Crusader.
Well, because...
And he said, what did he say? You dressed like Shawaddy Waddy or something like that, and it all got a bit heated at the time. I know it's all schoolboy stuff, but what are your thoughts on him being in boxing? Well,
he has very strong opinions about boxing and very little empathy for the fighters. So, and that's what he didn't like. That's what he didn't like that I said.
He's clued up in boxing, to be fair to him.
Is he?
Is he? Some of the stuff,
he's a very, very intelligent.
He's intelligent, fan, knowledgeable. Okay.
I'm not a fan of the sport. I am. It's my job.
Yeah. Okay.
So I do distinguish between that sometimes, and my disagreements with Simon have been over, and this is what I've learned from my mentors, and this is what I learned in life, that in order to gain people's trust in a small industry, you can't reveal everything all the time. There's a time to reveal things. It's almost like that line of only tell the officers much as they need to know.
Yeah,
and it is true in life. The older you
keep
get,
your ace card in your pocket.
Yeah, because but it's also.
Are you saying that he doesn't? He just blurts it out?
No, he said that. He says that. That's what I was going to explain. That my access and my knowledge of what's going on is very important because I know the long-term picture in the sport. Whereas that's what Simon says. If I know something, I'm just going to say it anyway. I need my contacts to know that if they're telling me something, and boxing is...
You can keep stum when you need to.
And they know that. Okay. So they trust me over many years. Yeah. And it's... You may not understand that on the surface, but it's a very important part of business. Access and...
Being trustworthy.
And when you use that information, is timing on things is very important. So I don't really, I think, again, I go back to my line about I will only say or write what I'll say to someone's face. Yeah. Because that's my rule and that works. So with Simon, my only disagreement really was over him saying, yeah, but you protect yourself and I don't need to, so I can say whatever I want to say.
Right, okay.
So...
What he was saying to you, you're protecting yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, where he's saying, well, I don't care, I can say whatever I want.
You protect your interest,
okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, and you know, he's a fantastic broadcaster. I think he's become a journalist.
Yeah.
He doesn't like the tag. And you know, I really felt for him when I think he had cancer or prostate cancer or something like that.
Okay.
And I did feel for him at that time, and I remember being very genuinely caring about it. But yeah, there's a little bit of head-butting over a few bits and pieces, but you know, TalkSport's a really big platform. Great
platform, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an amazing platform. So,
are you employed by TalkSport?
I work for them. I'm not on a contract.
Okay.
I'm sometimes they're boxing correspondent, sometimes I'm not. I work for them. I work for William Hill. I work for the Telegraph. I work for 3 or 4 different broadcasters.
So, would you class yourself how you earn a pound note? Are you a contractor? Do you contract?
I am with some people.
In some people,
I'm on a retained contract with some people.
So, who are you on a retainer with?
With the Telegraph.
Okay.
30 years.
Yeah.
I'm an ambassador for William Hill, but that's a contract, really. Yeah. I'm kind of a hired hand in the fight world, but I've always helped. I think when you've been doing it a really long time, you're a promoter, yeah? So when you are doing an event, your objective is, well, I'm sure it's not just to make money. You get pleasure out of other people having pleasure.
Absolutely.
So, but ultimately, if you lost money, you wouldn't get pleasure out of it.
No, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't. I put our festival on 2 weeks ago, 30,000 people partying in a field for 3 days. And we'd just gone into year 17.
Yeah.
And when you put on a great event, you're bringing people together, everyone's dancing on tables, having fun, 100 DJs, bands, celebrities, TV crews. Yeah. That tick, 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 tick. And then the sunshine comes, tick, tick, tick. But at the end of it, you see how much you've earned. That gives you another little buzz. But you're going back to your point, if you didn't earn anything, you put all that on and everyone was having fun. And
if you made a loss, you might do it. You might make a loss one year, but it doesn't matter because you've made. But where I would compare, for me, is, and it doesn't relate to money, is doing 8 Paralympic Games.
Yeah.
Because I know I've changed people's perception. I know I have, and I've helped to do that. I know, it's amazing. Yeah. First Paralympic event I ever went to in Atlanta. I was the only British journalist there. The first thing I saw was a one-legged Chinaman, Bin Hu, one leg doing 2 meters over the high jump. And the tears were just fucking rolling down my face. And every day in those games, and I did write some really good stories and uncovered different things. And the Americans Atlanta weren't running it very well. And it was an afterthought. And the Paralympics isn't like that anymore. And I broadcast on it afterwards on TV and radio and everything. But it was meeting 20 heroes every day. Yeah. I didn't even know their fucking names. One-legged Bosnian sitting volleyball players, 6'3", but bouncing on one leg up the stadium steps. Or in China, watching people from the countryside. I didn't want to use the word peasants, but people from the countryside watching big screens. And you can see them transformed, wheelchairs. Being in London, and 2.2 million fucking tickets being sold, and knowing that I hammered Seb Coe every time I saw him to say not the Olympics, but Olympics and Paralympics, Seb. Yeah, okay. And in the end,
did he start saying this? Did Seb start saying that?
No, I'm friends with Seb, and in the end, he was like,
"Good clout."
Marcus Armitage at the Telegraph, who won the national on the Grand National, Mr. Frisk, doing the equestrianism, the physically disabled equestrianism, saying to me, "Oh my God, that's the best thing I've ever covered." In London, I'll swim to Rio and cover it for free. Other broadcasters who I respect, people like Mike Costello going, "Chum, you've been right for all these years." It was unbelievable to do the athletics. Extraordinary. The triumph of the human spirit. Mind, body, spirit. And if you're not into that, you're not human, in my view.
Tell me your honest opinion on boxing being in Saudi Arabia.
My honest opinion is I love it.
Yeah.
I have lived all over the world all my life. I like East and West coming together.
Yeah.
And I've been there 8 times. I'm fascinated by the Bedouin culture.
Yeah.
I like going out late at night, and I can feel how they sat out with their shisha pipes and everything settling and watching the universe at night. And we need to get away from having fear of other cultures and other religions and not believing what we're told. So go yourself and see it.
I hear you. I totally hear you. Is it different to Dubai? Are you allowed, as a boxing fan, and you went out?
No, there's no drinking.
There's zero, even in the hotels, nothing.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Because Dubai, there's plenty.
Dubai. That's a different.
So it's completely
the Emirates
different.
is different.
What's the vibe there? What's the vibe in the stadium? What's the vibe leading up to it? What's the vibe like on a weigh-in or a face-to-face there? Because obviously, there's not a lot of British out there. What's the vibe in the stadium? Because when I'm watching it. I'm thinking, this is amazing. I'm seeing 6 heavyweights fighting. I'm seeing all these fights. I'm seeing Eddie and Frank coming together. I'm seeing plenty of money for everyone.
I'm not there for the atmosphere. I'm there for the fight.
The fight. But tell me about what is the actual atmosphere like? If you go Wembley and you go AJ fighting back then, 9s all day long, what would you give it out of 10 for the atmosphere-wise in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think AJ against Klitschko at Wembley is one of the greatest events I've ever attended. And I think I was doing the broadcast that night and writing at the same time, which is almost impossible, by the way. But somehow one manages to do it. It's different. What I'll say, Dodge, is that I've also worked on TV in Japan at UFC events where I've heard a mobile phone going off during a fight. When there's 25,000 people in the Saitama Super Arena. It's about cultural appropriacy for me. And here, when we go to sporting events, alcohol is a big thing to do. So
which creates atmosphere.
And it creates a certain atmosphere. It's not atmosphere. It's not pure. It's a certain atmosphere.
But it does create a better atmosphere.
Well, that's
if everyone's had 2 or 3 pints, and more singing and more fun and up.
It's noisier. So it's a quieter atmosphere. Well, for Fury and Usyk, it was really atmospheric.
Give me on a scale of 1 to 10, would you give it atmosphere-wise?
9.
A 9.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable night.
Interesting.
When I'm like this. 20 times and everyone else is. That is it was an unbelievable atmosphere, an unbelievable night.
And that stadium, is it built?
Very, very big. It's a football stadium.
So it's a football stadium, it's already there?
It's a football stadium with a roof.
They built
it in 90 days,
You're joking,
They built it in 90 days. It's a very...
Capacity?
30,000, I think it is.
Was it a full house?
I think there were 25,000 in for Fury and Usyk. There were a lot more travellers. Obviously, travellers. But there were a lot more travellers. And, you asked me, what's the atmosphere like? It built during the week for that one. It was a very big fight. I'm not focused on the atmosphere because I'm doing radio, I'm doing television, I'm doing writing, I'm doing local radio over there. I'm trying to interview fighters. I'm trying to do social media. It was the biggest atmosphere we've experienced so far
out of all
over
of
there.
them.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, my thing is, we've got used to big events taking place in America, in New York and Las Vegas, and sometimes in LA, in London, in Manchester, which I think are kind of the main.
I still think you can't beat the atmosphere you get in England.
But you haven't experienced
I haven't experienced the Saudi Arabia. No, I hear you. But I can only see on telly, and
well, come and see it.
Yeah, I will.
Because what I know what you mean. But there was years ago. There was the Rumble in the Jungle. That was in Kinshasa, Zaire. There was the Thriller in Manila. There were events in Jamaica. There have been fights in South Africa. Ancient Rome and ancient Greece had fighting hundreds of or thousands of years ago now. It hasn't always been. There's a paradigm shift. That's what people have got to realise. It's professional sport. Do you follow the Premier Rugby? It's collapsing, isn't it?
It's collapsing.
It's collapsing.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Saudi wanted to invest in that because it was big enough, they'd all go there.
Absolutely, they go like Heartbeat.
They'd go there. If they put 100 million into rugby right now and they gave 100 million a year, which they could do, and they've got a PF, but they've got an investment fund to turn their country in their 2030 vision, which I have read because I want to understand it. Unbelievable.
Amazing.
They've got young leaders who want to move their country from a petrochemical country into a modern economy.
Yeah.
75% of their people are under 35.
Yeah.
You'll be running festivals there eventually.
Yeah. We've just done a deal with them.
Well, there you go.
Our other business online events course.
Yeah.
You know,
I did see that.
You've seen it. So online events course, you can do that in 3 months rather than going to get a degree and spend 50 grand in debt and what have you. Do that in 3 months online. Saudi Arabia are wanting this to teach their nation. This is how you put on events. Because at the moment, what's happening, Saudis are bringing in the British to put on their events. And like you say, their population's under 35. This is prime for 2030.
Wait till they have local heroes themselves in these sports. It's all about the build.
Yeah.
It's all about
it's teaching
boxing's
them what
in
they
a
don't
good
know.
place.
Yeah.
Boxing's in a good place as a result.
As a whole, boxing's in a good place.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah.
Boxing, it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
The promoters have always been the emperors and the fighters are the gladiators. That's the way I see it. And
do you think that's changed or changing? Do you think that the fighters are getting more? Do you think the fighters are getting more power than the promoters?
Now.
Yeah,
they are right now.
Do you think all the fighters know their worth? Do you think that Tyson and AJ really know their worth? To go, right, I'm going to get the best deal for me, and then the promoter takes it.
No, I think they're getting an extraordinary amount
amazing
of money.
deal.
And but they've earned it.
Absolutely.
You know, if you've got to think of the collateral of all the years that they've invested in it. Just to finish on that point about Saudi Arabia, no, I'm not going to say. I don't mind talking about it, but at all. But what
just explain to the listener
about the atmosphere. I understand people's point of view.
Yeah.
And I think when you read into it deeply, I think they just want to be there. Really.
Yeah.
That's what it is. But
what, the fighters and the promoters?
No.
Just the public,
fans,
the local fans.
Well, they want to be there.
Okay.
So, you know, sometimes there isn't an amazing atmosphere at boxing in the UK till the last event.
Yeah.
People are in the bars till the last event.
Yeah.
If you go to Wembley and it's first 4 fights on the undercard, sometimes, you know, it's a smattering of people. I get people are entitled to their opinions about everything. But I see it as investment in sport.
It's a great investment.
Yeah.
It's taken boxing to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Whole new level.
Yeah. And it's made all the fights possible that we needed.
Do you think Eddie and Frank would have got together and done a deal if Saudi Arabia wasn't in the mix?
Never in a million years.
Okay.
Because, and also, they've realised, I think as I said earlier, that they actually really like each other and respect each other.
Which is lovely to see, by the way.
It's amazing.
I think it's really nice to see.
And it will make more.
And it looks genuine
happen.
as well.
The 5v5 was brilliant.
Yeah.
My heart, I was honest with both of them. My heart said Queensbury, my head said Matchroom.
Okay.
And I'm glad it happened that way around. And what a brilliant sport Eddie was, losing 10-0 on points.
Yeah. Do you know what I loved about Eddie on the plane on the way back when he filmed? He said, "You're not going to like this. I'm going to fucking deal with this. Look who I got with me laying next to me." And Frank was there.
Yeah, and he said, "We're 5 hours late."
Yeah, but that's for 5. That's right. Everything's fine.
I'm in seat 5. We're in row 5. So, but Eddie took it and he showed he's got a great chin on him. Great pair of whiskers.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the movements for you over the last? You said you've been there 8 times. Has there been 8 fight nights since?
Yeah,
Saudi
a week at a time.
Over?
Week at a time. Yeah, a week at a time.
So you've done it a week at a time.
Yeah, I think it's either 6, 7, or 8. I can't remember. I know we've just done 5. I did AJ and Usyk, and I think there's one other. But I think there's been 9 events in total in Saudi now.
How have you noticed the difference from the first event where Saudi are gone? Okay,
I go exploring more. That's what happens.
No, but I'm saying, but for you, like going to the first fight night, the first time you went, compared to the 8th or 9th you've done now, have you seen that they're improving every time?
Every time.
They're tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. And
more investment.
Better experience.
Bigger.
Okay.
Bigger. The cards are amazing.
Yeah.
It's like fancy matchmaking all the time. Fights that you would not see. Yeah. 6 main events on that last 5x5 card. You could have put them on in Manchester Arena, and in Vegas, and packed it out. Packed it out.
Absolutely.
But what it's done, it's given that injection that the sport needed. And again, as you would, the more times you go, as I said, I've probably worked in, it'd probably be 50 or 60 countries by the time I stop. Every time you go back to a country more, you explore.
Explore more and get to love it more.
It's fascinating. And, you know, I love delving into culture. I've been on bead expeditions in Nigeria as a child and all over China doing different things, visiting the Great Wall, visiting the sea, going to places in Russia where the oligarchs lived in dachas and in the winter with my tiny children. Just, you know, I mean, I'm going to say this about my parents have had a tour of the Kremlin and the White House in their lives, you know, while they've been working, and it's like extraordinary things. And I'm lucky to do what I'm doing. To be part of it,
You're very lucky.
Yeah.
One of the best jobs in the world, I think.
Yeah, no, it's the best job in the world.
Absolutely.
Because I get to write like a foreign correspondent.
Yeah.
I get to write war language, and I'm watching this event. I love and hopefully understand fighting.
Yeah.
You know?
Tyson, go back to Tyson.
No, Tyson.
So what's your relationship like
now
with
I've got a story about that with what you asked me. When Tyson, it was fascinating writing about him fighting Klitschko. And I'd covered his career up to then, obviously, and we didn't know at that point how brilliant he was going to be. Yeah. And he's always stepped up when he's had to. Even stepped up in that round 10 against Usyk in that last fight when he looked gone extraordinarily. When he beat Klitschko, I did a series of stories on him then. Interviews with his father about 10 generations of bare knuckle fighters, and got into the romance of the traveller, and wrote a lot of stories about Bartley Gorman, the king of the gypsies, and the guy who fought on Epsom Downs and fought 20 men, and just amazing fight stories. I mean, the traveller culture is extraordinary.
Special, isn't it?
It's amazing. Yeah. And I've always gotten well with travellers, and they appreciate my intellect on fighting, I think. You know, and then I'm educated and I can talk about it and write about it. And that is an appreciation. And I love that. And I can't go anywhere now without travellers grabbing me and going, oh, Tyson. And I live near Cambridge. So when I go paddling, there's a lot of travellers there. They always want to talk about Tyson. And it might be someone with their horses. And a car going on with their three sons. I've got loads of friends. Bob is a good mate of mine. Bob, he'll watch this. When Tyson got ill, when Tyson ballooned to 23 stone, first of all, and then 27 stone, 28 stone, I was the first to go and visit him in Marbella. When he just met Ben Davison, he was out there with Billy Joe Saunders.
Ben Davison, what a trainer, by the way. We can go back to that because I've got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant, Ben. And I've known him 7 or 8 years now, and I think he will go on to be one of the great trainers, if he's not already. But when Tyson was ill, I did send him a message, and this relates to Ben as well. When he was not well, I did send him a private message, a DM, and said, listen, this has nothing to do with work. I'm often up very late. And I said to him, if you want to talk to someone, just fucking ring me. And it will never go any further. If you need to talk to someone, I'm there.
Fair play to you.
And I get called a Fury fanboy a lot. And I'm not, but we've been close. And because I've been through the depression and the darkness as well, as I've kind of revealed a little bit to you today. And he didn't reply, but everyone around him said he really appreciated that and he'll never forget it. Because it wasn't to do with work. I didn't want to I didn't want to reveal that story. It was as a friend. And we've had a couple of little fallouts, but you know, it's because, you know, the projection of criticism on young people don't like.
Does Tyson take criticism well?
I don't think he reads criticism, but I think there's 2 levels to this. There's the traveller culture. Like if you insult a man, you've got to back it up. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
We shouldn't be insulting men anyway. You shouldn't be insulting people unless you've got a reason. And if you're going to insult someone, just take action, whatever you're going to do. And it has to be for a reason, in my view. I think we've got to remember that, I remember that the young people that I'm covering are young people. I know through my own children that generation is more sensitive about things. I know that fighting is a very emotional business. It's a very personal business. It's a very dangerous and difficult business, even if it's a calling. people really care about you. I've been in Tyson Fury's dressing room 3 times before a fight. In the minutes before he walks, I've been invited in, and it's a privilege. Yeah. It's such a privilege. And you know, he'll take the mickey out of you. Look at me, I've got you in here again. I'm saving your life. I'm giving you stuff that no one else is getting. And his wife is there, beautiful Paris. Yeah. She is the nails. Know how she looks after those children and how she looks after him. And you've seen the Netflix series, I mean, he's extraordinary. And he is up and down with his bipolar. And his brothers are there and his father's there and the team there.
It's a proper family, isn't it?
It's a big family. I remember when I was in the Wilder dressing room in Los Angeles, when he fought Wilder, I mean, and the music's playing and I predict a riot and everyone's bouncing around in there and dancing, and that's 6 years ago now. But being in the Wembley dressing room when he walked out to fight Dillian Whyte and the fight for Chisora, he's become a bigger and bigger figure. I mean, he's so successful.
Yeah.
And when you're that successful, people, I think, are looking for you to fail. They're looking for holes in you.
That's the British culture. The British culture, they don't want to get someone too big.
Human. I think it's human.
I don't think it is human, because I think the Americans just keep bigging you up. I think the British cultures want to get you built up, and then they want to chop your legs down.
Maybe.
Because you're getting too big.
Maybe.
Which I don't like. I'm not a big fan of that.
No, I'm not a big fan of it at all.
Like, let them
Karma.
Go success.
Karma
comes and bites you in the arse, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it does. And I don't believe in resentment. It's one thing that I don't like in life.
So tell me, does Tyson take criticism well from you?
I'd call it critique. Sometimes I'm just honest about.
Okay.
I scored Usyk the winner in the fight with him. I'd love him to have won because I want to see Joshua, and I still want him to win in the rematch. So I want to see Fury and Joshua.
Who would win out of Fury and Joshua?
I think Fury wins.
Okay.
But I used to think of it like that.
Yeah. It's getting closer.
I think of it like that.
Okay.
They're getting older. How many fighters finish their career with a couple of losses at the end? You know. Does he take criticism? Yeah, I think he can take it.
So
I think he's sensitive sometimes.
He's sensitive, but here's an example.
Everyone is.
If you criticised Tyson Fury,
it depends what I'm criticising.
No, but I'm saying if you did criticise him, what reaction would you get personally from him?
Well, I think he's been disappointed in me, and I don't think he's right. There was a time when certain colleagues were saying, "Oh, he's holding up the heavyweight division," and you remember the kind of online kind of antics. And it's just a surface thing. I knew what was going on in the background. They were waiting for the right deals to happen. Yeah. They all were. Usyk was, Joshua was, Fury was. They knew it was coming. They knew that big Saudi Arabian money was coming. Timing, money, ego. And it's what I go back to earlier, what I was saying to you about. I talk to a lot of people behind the scenes. Bob Arum, Todd DeBuff, Frank Warren, George Warren, Eddie Hearn, Frank Smith, managers, the fighters themselves sometimes, the trainers. You mentioned Ben Davison. When you, even if one of them is telling you 10%, by the time you've spoken to 8 people, you've got a very good picture of what's going on. So I know when someone says something on air or writes something, I know when they're on the mark or not. Not 100% of the time, but I've got a very good instinct on it, on putting things together. And it's part of what I do. I'm a correspondent on it. I have been for a very long time.
Can you get blocked? Can you get cock blocked? It's like Tyson was like, I know you slagged me off at some point or criticised me. You're not coming into my changing room. I'm not speaking to you. Is it anything like that go on? Or
not really.
Can you feel a cold shoulder from...
We had a fallout for a few months, but it was more, I think, a whisper.
Chinese whisper. Okay. What was the fallout over?
Someone saying something on a show I was on and me not correcting them.
Right, okay.
But I've done that so many times. And it's fine. I don't have any issue with it. I don't lose out as a result. I'll always be writing about Tyson or Anthony, AJ, or Deontay Wilder. I'll always be writing about these guys. And, I do it with my head and my heart. I don't do it. I'm not a vindictive person.
No. Do you battle with your head and your heart sometimes when you're writing?
Always with my no. It's a very good question. Writing, like I said, I have imposter syndrome with writing a little bit, and I need to believe I'm good at writing because so many people have told me all the way back to university, but it's just I don't know why I don't rate myself. So, but with I like to write a piece that, it depends what it is. It could be a feature, it could be an interview. I want people to be inspired to following that person or watching that fight or taking an interest in that person. It's the same as, this is the analogy, I always say this, when I'm on air, hopefully if some grandmother's cooking in the kitchen right now and she's caught the Dodge Woodall Eventful Lives podcast, and she's watching, or he's watching, grandfather, grandmother, and they're not even interested in sport, I don't want to lose them on a broadcast. Okay. I want to be telling stories. I want to be talking about someone in a way that they go, oh, I want my grandson to know about this person. Yeah. That's inspiring. That's fascinating. Whether it be Richard Riakporhe that was stabbed within 5% of his life and he's come back and he's an exemplary person and he's fighting for a world title now. Or it be Dillian Whyte, father at 13, who had to walk another mile around the estates to get home because he couldn't go through where the two gangs, because he's been stabbed twice and shot twice in his life. And
he's Brixton, that isn't
he? Brixton out of Jamaica. They lived in Jamaica till he was 10, I think. Yeah. But they lived in great poverty. Yeah. You know, great poverty. And
Brixton's tough. I bought my first place in Brixton in 2000 next to the prison.
But it was hipsters by then.
No, it wasn't. It was tough place. Really tough.
Was it liquid?
Death. Yeah. To be fair to him, to growing up Jamaica, then going Brixton, kid at 13, stabbed, shot at. He's lived an eventful life, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Have you had him on or not?
No, I haven't. Love to get him.
No, Dillian is a great human being.
I love him as a fighter.
Transformation.
Yeah.
He's coming to the end. He's probably only got a couple of fights left.
Has he earned enough money to survive, to carry on through his thing?
Ask him when he comes on.
Yeah, okay.
The truth is, I don't know.
He would have got a nice payday from the Tyson Fury.
From all of his big fights.
All of them.
Yeah, no, he's a money weight fighter now, is what I'd call him.
I want him to get a load more under his belt and then retire happily with a load of wedge.
I think he's 35, 36 now. Yeah. I'd say he's probably got 2 or 3 left. Not as many as Del Boy Chisora.
I like Chisora.
Oh, I love Derek.
Mate, what a character.
I beat him up once.
Did you?
Snowballs. In 48 hours before he fought David Haye at the press conference. Yeah. Do you remember?
Yeah.
After he fought Vitaly Klitschko for 12 rounds. Derek and Derek has become an absolute folkloric figure in British and world boxing. Yeah. And he gets better with age. Yeah. You know, he's got
the thing is, he's going to fight to the last second of every round, every fight.
Dodge, I did an interview with him for DAZN. Yeah. This series I did called Off the Cuff, where I go narrow and deep. You know, it's fascinating when you go narrow and deep with someone. And Derek said to me, I cannot give this up. I'll be fighting to get out of my coffin for another fight when I'm 6 feet under. Yeah. And he is like that. And the thing is about Derek, I beat him in a snowball fight in Munich because he couldn't throw as well as me. And I ended up running away from him. That was the time that he slapped Klitschko in the face, if you remember.
When he had his bandana on.
And I fought with David Haye in the press conference afterwards. And then they end up at West Ham with 18,000 naughty ones.
It all kicked off
18,000 of you lot naughty. And the last fight before the Olympics in 2012, amazing event, unlicensed, because the Boxing Board of Control wouldn't license it. And Frank Warren pulled a great stroke there with the Luxembourg Commission.
What were your thoughts on the move, Eddie moved from Matchroom, from Sky Sports to DAZN?
It was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And it's still not quite worked out yet, but it's coming. Sky and Eddie only got into boxing initially, and he had Anthony Joshua, because Frank Warren had created Box Nation.
Box Nation, that's
and
right.
went to BT Sports,
that's right.
who I used to work for on the UFC, and are an amazing kind of the transformation they've made into TNT.
Yeah.
Barney,
I know, Sky.
Smith?
Barney. His surname. I know you mean, go on.
Barney was the head of Sky.
That's right.
He said, no, we don't want to lose the broadband war.
Yeah.
we need to do boxing as well, because BT Sport were going to do boxing with Frank Warren,
That's right.
who had aligned with Box Nation. And so they got back into it, and Sky were really successful in that period. Anthony Joshua, 5 stadium fights,
That's
blah, blah, blah. I agree with you. That platform was enormous. That's what Eddie really grew through. Because his dad was never that big in boxing as Eddie was. So Eddie's next progression was global. And he looked at the UFC model, which was, we're going to go into every territory. Why just, again, this goes back to Saudi Arabia and it becoming, it's a global sport.
Absolutely,
Naoya Inoue just fought in front of 55,000 people at the Superdome in Tokyo. Harness that. There's 2 billion people in China. They're thinking of taking Zhili Zhang to Beijing or to Shanghai for a fight. Of course. Look at him. You know.
What happened with Conor Benn?
With Conor Benn, again, the platform that TalkSport is, and I will still stick to my guns on this, they went around the houses with his case instead of doing it head on. They went for jurisdiction, not strict liability.
And this is for
the clomiphene that was in his system twice. This is for TalkSport. I talked about it a lot on our show because it was a cloud hanging over the sport a year ago, because we didn't have all this going on and it was the biggest story going on in the sport. And I have spoken to it until I'm up to here, because it was stuck in legalese. The Boxing Board of Control wouldn't talk to you about it behind the scenes. Connor's people wouldn't talk about it behind the scenes. Eddie wouldn't talk about it behind the scenes, or he would to a certain point because Eddie talks a bit more. But a lot of it was kind of Chatham House rules. It was non-disclosure stuff. So Connor's beef with me was that I looked like I didn't believe him. But I never said that. I've never once called him a cheat. What I said was, you need to do the proper case for strict liability. And if you have to take a ban, you have to take a ban. And that is the problem with a situation. If you have circumstantial evidence that you are, I don't want to equate it to a murder, but if you're there in the room and there was no one else in the room and someone dies, and it might have been a heart attack or, you know, but you were there in the room and people think you had a motive, you've still got to prove your innocence. You can't just, even if you are innocent, you've got to go through the process. Do you know what I mean? And Connor's beef with me was that I didn't just nominally believe him because I'd been friends with him. And we did a lot of work together, telling his story, him coming on shows on TalkSport. And again, it's the sensitivity of a young person who's proud and fierce. And that day I went to interview him at an Anthony Joshua fight, and he just slapped a microphone out of my hand. Again, like Deontay Wilder, like Dillian Whyte, I did not take it personally. I didn't really. And I have spoken to him once since, and I'm sure I'll speak to him again. In fact, last week, I was speaking to Tony Sims, his trainer, and I'm trying to organise to go down to the gym to see him, but
I really like Conor Benn as a fighter.
Yeah, I do. I do. Conor Benn against Chris Eubank. Really wanted to see the fight.
Who wins that?
Well, Chris Eubank's going to fight Hamza Shiraz now. And I think I'm favouring Hamza Shiraz to win that fight. Even though I'm quite close with Chris Eubank as well. But I love the Eubank-Benn matchup. It's a little bit unequal. I didn't like the weight cut for Chris Eubank.
Too much.
I think so. But I think there is a possibility that fight still happens. Conor Benn's a big name. Before the clomiphene, outside the heavyweights, he was on the way to being the biggest name in the UK, I think.
Has his speed of progression slowed down?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How much?
He needs to get back out there.
By a year or so?
Yes, but because of what's happened, he's a very big name. He needs to get in against a Ryan Garcia now, or someone like that.
I'm dying to see him fight.
Yeah, me too.
I'd pay all day long to see him fight.
But
who wins that fight? Chris Eubank Jr. or Conor Benn?
If Chris Eubank has been beaten by Hamza Shiraz and then it happens, a lot will be taken out of him in that fight, in my view. because Hamza Shiraz hits very hard and is very dangerous, and he's a rising stud in that middleweight division. The cash register will have been a little bit more emptied of the notes in Chris Eubank's kind of everything. Every fight takes something out of them.
Who wins?
Cool. I mean, I had picked Chris Eubank to win, but I think it'll be very close. And I think by the time Conor comes back, he's going to be carrying something, and he's going to go in there and be ferocious.
Yeah.
And he might well win it.
Yeah. I hope so.
It's very hard to pick a clear winner in that.
Yeah. Who wins out of the rematch? Usyk, Fury.
Marginally, I think Usyk could do it.
Yeah.
But my heart wants Fury to do it.
Yeah.
Because I want to see Fury and Joshua. I don't want to lose that fight.
I don't want to lose that
as well as Joshua and Wilder.
Do you think that
and
fight could
poor
be...
old Joshua.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get to fight Fury and Wilder in this era, that is rough on him.
Do you think there'd be a part of Tyson that he wouldn't want to fight him just so he didn't get the chance to fight him? Or do you think Tyson would want to go in and go, right, let's have 100 million quid each, let's finish it off, and then we're done?
Common sense says you've got to take that fight.
Yeah.
If it's offered to you, even if, because it's I think the second fight with Usyk, it was befitting of an undisputed heavyweight championship, the whole contest and the event, in my view, and a very close fight in the end. Even though on the eye test, Usyk won it towards the end, and he won it on points. I think he clearly won it on points. I predicted a controversial draw, by the way. We were very close to that.
Do you know what you're interested in about your heart and your head? I put a bet on Usyk to win on points.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart to do that.
It broke my
heart.
But you did it with your head.
Yeah.
You did it with your head.
Yeah.
You
but
did
my
it on
heart, I
instinct.
wanted, it broke my heart to do that. Even though I won, I didn't get enjoyment out of it.
You're getting Tyson Fury on the podcast now.
What's that? Love to get him on.
I never bet on fights, by the way. I never, ever bet on fights.
Yeah.
I do not want my fiscal
Are you
return.
allowed to bet on fights?
I don't even know.
No, okay. Well, if you're not contracted to someone, I guess it doesn't really matter.
But I mean, I work for, I pick fights for William Hill. That is what I do. It's one of my ambassadorial roles.
Who is the most exciting fighter in the UK at the moment in any division?
God, that's a great question. Nick Ball is very, very exciting. The featherweight that's just won the world title.
Go up through the weights.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. Hamza Shiraz springs to mind in the middleweight division.
Yeah. What country is he from?
He's a Scottish traveller.
Okay. That's not a typical Scottish name, is it?
Willie Hutchinson. Hamza Shiraz you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, he is of Pakistani origin.
Yeah.
His dad played cricket for Gloucester, bowled the West Indies out one
right?
day, by the way, yeah. Bowled Brian Lara out, got a 6 for against the West Indies. He was a quick bowler, which probably tells you about the tensile strength and fast twitch fibre in Hamza. He's 6'2", rock'em sock'em, middleweight. I mean, he's huge. I'm trying to think about, Moses Italma, the young heavyweight. He's 19, southpaw.
Yeah.
Used to run out of school at 15 to go and spar with Joe Joyce.
Is that right?
When he was 15. Moses Rico Italma. He's trying to be a world champion before Mike Tyson was at 21.
Can he be, do you think?
Yeah.
You reckon?
Yeah.
How does he get there to become a world champion?
He fights every 2 months for the next 2 years.
Is that possible?
Yeah. Yeah.
How good is he out of 10?
He's the takeover.
How good is he?
I've dubbed him the takeover.
Really?
He's got hand speed, he's got presence, he's already 6'5" and 17 and a half stone. He's growing into the role.
He's 6'5", 17 and a half stone.
Yeah.
And he's how old? 19?
He's you know your rugby. He's the size of an international rugby number 8 already.
Okay.
And he's been big since he was young.
Yeah.
His dad's, I think, Nigerian. His mum's, I want to get this right, she's Eastern European. There's another guy, Delicious Ori, that's coming through as well, who's going to the Olympics.
Where's he from?
He's got a Russian and a Nigerian, Russian mum, Nigerian dad, I think. great mixture. Almost a perfect.
That's a fiery mixture,
That
isn't
is
it?
a great mixture. So other exciting fighters. I'm starting to memory banks because you made me go deep into my memory banks. I've got to bring myself back to now. I'm thinking Daniel Dubois against Anthony Joshua. That's very exciting.
Do you think Daniel Dubois could beat Anthony Joshua?
Yeah, good. He's very dangerous. He can't take those right hands he was taking from Hrgovic early on in that fight. I want to tell you some other exciting
He couldn't take the right hands from the
fighters.
start, but Jesus, it pissed him off enough to come back and take Hrgovic to bits, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to kick myself when I leave, and I've forgotten someone who I want to mention.
Who's
It's very
the
exciting.
tall British? I think he's mixed race. He's always
Ben Whittaker.
I really like him.
Oh yeah, Ben's very exciting.
I really like him.
Because he's a showboater, isn't he? And he's like a Naz Hamid. It's like Mayweather at the end. People watch to see if his opponent can knock him out.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is
that is entertaining.
It's absolutely.
But he's also very
entertaining,
good with it as well. Quick.
Yeah. No, he's brilliant.
Quick.
He's so talented.
Do you know what I really like? Oh, sorry.
No.
Do you know what I really like? Joseph Parker.
I love Joe.
Mate, he is underrated. I think he could come back and get a world
He is coming
title.
back.
Unbelievable.
You could put him in against Zhili Zhang in China. I mean, I scored that fight a draw when they fought last time. I didn't have Parker winning. He was down twice. Yeah. And Zhang, I thought, dominated the first 5 rounds of that bout.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He's part of the Fury camp now. I'll never fight Fury. I'm still
You can still think about,
I'm still thinking about fighters.
Do you know what I also
about.
like boxing's a dark sport. People are seen to be a cutthroat business. People sharpen each other. Do you know what I'd love to see is the relationship between Eddie and AJ. That relationship is what you call full-on loyalty.
There's
unbelievable
trust, complete
loyalty,
trust,
respect, everything. That is like the epitome of how partners should be in business or whatever it is, business, sport, business.
But I think with AJ he's like a sponge. He soaks things up, and this. For the minute he went with Ben Davison, I thought it was a perfect
great
combo.
move.
The difficulty is going to be, can Ben do that against Tyson Fury, who is a close, deep friend of his?
Yeah.
The bond between Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua is enormous. Yeah. But I think Anthony likes his building blocks. He doesn't like to. He's got structure there. He's got that fiscal, emotional,
discipline,
mental
mindset.
Scaffolding. It's scaffolding, but it's scaffolding for him. Eddie Hearn is great scaffolding.
Yeah.
So
I like how AJ's taken himself away. He does a fight. He said after one fight, he won that fight. He said, no one's going to remember that fight. Lock himself away, get back on it.
Yeah.
I thought that was powerful.
Yeah, his comeback has been brilliant.
I thought it was powerful. Just because of he knows the media are going to twist everything. He might say the wrong thing. He goes, right, see you later, media. I'm off skis. I'm going to go and train and work hard.
I think he should do more things with the media.
You think he should do more?
Yeah, I've always said this, that he should certainly do more with some of us, and I'd like to be one of those people. I mean, I've had people said, you're so critical of Anthony Joshua. I don't think I'm very critical at all. I'm at level 4 of how critical I could be most of the time.
Okay.
I have a very critical mind. Very.
Do you have to draw yourself back when you're writing to go, hold on a minute, I could nail into someone here, but let's ease it down a bit.
Like I'm sitting here now thinking I can nail you.
Yeah.
I do have a very critical mind, genuinely. And I'm a perfectionist myself. And at the end of the day, these guys are going into a fight. It's not a game of rugby. It's not, it's not.
Well, rugby's legalised violence.
Yeah, but it's not the same as fighting.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's one-on-one fucking combat that you can die in. Yeah. And I've played rugby. I played a lot of good rugby, and I know what it's like once you're in it. For people watching, it looks violent. When you're in it, it isn't. You're just doing it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you don't feel it till the next day. And George Foreman said this to me years ago. There's no degree in being heavyweight champion of the world. There's no book on it. You're suddenly it.
In it, yeah.
And everything you say is important. Everything you do is important because you are the heavyweight champion of the world. It's a big belt, big chain to carry. Yeah. And I think My view is Anthony surprised himself how good he was. And I think he's getting back to realising who and what he is. And we can thank Ben Davison for some of that, because Ben has an emotional intellectuality for people that other trainers might not have had for him.
Ben's got that bit of stardust.
Yeah.
That's what I can see in him.
He's properly human.
Yeah.
Like studying Sun Tzu, The Art of War, and getting his fighters to look at how you intellectually look at combat and how you improve yourself and how strategy is important. Ben always tells me, and he works with a guy who's very, very talented, almost a savant in knowing fight strategy, called Lee Wiley, and they've teamed up and they've got so much better, is that they look at every detail of an opponent and genuinely look at plan A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
In his last 2 fights, plan A's worked straight away against Austin Vallon and Francis Ngannou. Straight down the pipe. Exactly.
Yeah.
But also against Wallin, dominating, getting on him straight away. That's what Joshua lost for a while and needed to do. Go out there. Who gives a fuck whether you lose 5 and you win 40? You're going to be a destroyer.
Yeah.
Look at Norton and Holmes and Ali. All these guys lost. They all lost. So, you know, you're going to lose at some point. Be who you are. Yeah. And I think he knows who he is again.
Yeah, I agree. Gareth, I've absolutely loved this.
It's been an absolute pleasure as well. And you're a brilliant host and interviewer, by the way. And thank you for your patience. And how you have taken it narrow and deep. And also how much you clearly love fight sports as well.
It.
Yeah.
I love all sports, especially boxing and all the sports, yeah. You're a gentleman, and you've certainly lived an eventful life. I wish you all the best moving. Everything you're doing forward is properly exciting, and you've got a job that people would die for.
They'll have to kill me to get it.
They'll have to kill you to get it.
Yeah, I've said that to a few people. Thank you,
You're a gentleman.
Sir. Thank you.
Good man, Gareth.
Cheers.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Can you do us a favour and subscribe to the channel? It's totally free and it massively helps our show. Cheers guys.